Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast presented by We Know Fantasy. As always, my name is Nate with We Know Fantasy, and joining me, as always, my co-host Jake. Jake, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. We're doing good. I mean, I was out of it on like midday Friday of both tournaments last week, so I'm very well rested and ready to get after the two PGA tournaments this week.
Yeah, I had a pretty big tease on the DP World Tour with a Paul Waring ticket, 60 to 1 roughly. Three, four shots back going into the final round, which was what they didn't play Saturday, so Monday or geez, Thursday, Friday. And then by the time I fell asleep, he had tied the lead or taken a stroke lead, and then I woke up and he lost by two or three strokes to a guy who was five back. So that's the DP World Tour for you.
Yep, in a
Soderberg, of
nutshell.
course, blowing it up again at the end as always. That guy definitely needs to figure out how to finish because man, he's pretty good. He's pretty good, but just can't figure that thing out. And then on the PGA Tour side of things, I mean, really didn't have anyone contention. I mean, Byung Hun Yan, maybe if it was some kind of miracle down the line there, but again, winless still on the PGA Tour this season. And yeah, I guess we'll see what this week brings with two chances to find a winner this week. We have the Wells Fargo Elevated event on the PGA Tour, 68-man field there, then an opposite field event for the first time ever. I find this hard to believe. If you've ever like thought of Myrtle Beach, I'm sure if you're on the East Coast, there's probably been some mention, or you have possibly yourself vacationed in Myrtle Beach, and doing so, someone in your family packs their golf clubs because there's 300,000 golf courses in the same area. So it's kind of mind blowing that the quote unquote golf capital of the world has yet to host a PGA Tour event. But I'm rather excited about this opposite field event there. But we'll get into that and why later on. But before we do move forward, Jake, where can people find you on social media?
Yep, you can find me at DJ Freeman on Twitter. No article this week, just too busy, but I'll get back to it going forward, and especially for next week because we got a major on our hands. But be sure to give me a follow there. Also, be sure to join the Discord. So we're up on 200 members now in that Discord. A super great resource that I think everyone uses, myself included, to just gain a little bit of knowledge from everyone on different facets of the tournaments, and especially this week with Myrtle Beach. A lot of people, I mean, like we haven't seen a golf course or tournament there. So any nugget of information that I can pick up from that Discord chat is what I'm doing this week. So completely free to join. You can find the link on our Twitters or in our articles also. But completely free, like I said before, a great resource to have under your belt.
There you go. That it is. That it is. So be sure to join us over there and simply just come talk some golf with us. You don't have to talk about betting. You don't have to talk about even golf half the time. And we talk about hockey and soccer, everything in between. We just talk about anything in there. So come join us there. Of course, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKF Nate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Be sure to visit We Know Fantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content, baseball, basketball, football, NASCAR, golf, everything in between. We have you covered. My full out of the rough article series is on there each every week of the PJ and the DP World Tour, as well as LPGA majors, full thorough breakdowns, full DFS plays, betting card, everything you need to know about the course, field, and event. You can find in those articles. Of course, on the We Know Fantasy Podcast Network, we will hopefully have another breakfast ball podcast coming out Friday, Saturday, somewhere in that realm, where Jake and I just load the odds for the PGA Tour Championship and just chat about them. Off script, nothing really to go off of, just hanging out and going through some odds, some early stuff there. And of course, the We Know Fantasy NASCAR podcast with Cody and Devin. Fantastic work they do over there. Very well done. Same thing we do here, break down the track, the field, everything you need to know from, historic facts and how people are running, all of that. It's a great place to, learn about some NASCAR betting and maybe NASCAR as a whole. So be sure to check them out as well. Jake, let's hop forward here into the elevated event Wells Fargo Championship. What is this, number 4 or 5 of the season? I've lost track at this point. Um, but yeah, the season's flying by, man. The second major of the season's here. Before we know it, I mean, the right around the corner really is going to be U.S. Open here in June. Then we have the Open, and then of course the finale of the PGA Tour FedEx Cup series is. I mean, it's coming right up. But either way, back to the Wells Fargo here. Of course, Heliquel Hollow for the what is this? This is the Oh, I don't know. I'll find it here in a second. I'm digging through my notes real quick. But of course, the final tune up before the PGA Tour Championship, we mentioned that already, held this year at Valhalla. Just 3.5 hours away from Quail Hollow here. Kind of a similar course, kind of in a way. Quail Hollow has hosted its fair share of important events. 2022 President's Cup was held here, the PGA Tour Championship is held here and will be held here next year in 2025. Quail Hollow will host the PGA Tour Championship. So, a fantastic way for golfers to come here and tune themselves up for the second major of the season with a major quality course and one that is going to host the same tournament a year from now, essentially. Of course, $20 million purse. And the big news this week, luckily for us, Scotty Scheffler will not be playing this week. Bettors rejoice, everyone jump up and down. There's a chance that Scotty Scheffler isn't going to take our money this week, as he has done many of times this season already. Two elevated events, a major, all of that, or three elevated events, right? And then this. So, waiting the birth of his first child, so won't be in attendance this week. I know it's been a topic for seems like 2 months now that she or the child may be coming, and maybe now it actually is the time. So, yeah, again, 68-man field. Wyndham Clark, defending champion, he used this event a season ago as his maiden PGA Tour victory. Hopefully, my luck from last season carries off here. That was my longest hit of my career up at that point, 60-1 on him last season. So hopefully, we're going to follow that up this season with another winner to get myself in the win column. Please, please, please. But Clark did so in demanding fashion last season. I think it was 4 or 5 strokes over second place Xander Schauffele. So, he took control of this tournament on Sunday, early Sunday, and never gave it up. And he was just lapping the field essentially on Sunday. Other former winners, we have not. So before last year, Wells Fargo, of course, wasn't a big tournament. It was one of the bigger name tournaments, but one golfers often skipped. It wasn't like a main stop on the PGA Tour schedule. But of course, elevated status changed that. But former champions in this week's field include Max Homa in 2021, 2018, Jason Day in 2017, Ricky Fowler in 2012, and Rory McIlroy has won here in 21, 15, and 10. Round out those former champions. So about Quail Hollow here. This will be the 5th time the Wells Fargo Championship has been held here since 2016. Designed by George Cobb in 1959, has seen a rich history over its 65 years in existence. It has seen renovations from Tom Fazio in 97, 2003, and 2016 to adapt to the increased length of PGA Tour professionals. That's about it there. But the track first hosted the PGA Tour's Kemper Open in 1969 through 1979. Prior to the event, switched to Congressional. From there, Quail Hollow has hosted the World Seniors Invitational before becoming the more stable host of the Wells Fargo Championship in 2023. Quail Hollow most recently hosted the President's Cup. I mentioned that in 2022, where Team USA really romped the international squad. I think the international squad was coached or captained by Trevor Immelman. Just a fun note there. Last hosted a major in 2017, where Justin Thomas claimed his first major championship as well. And again, it will host the PGA Tour Championship next season. Like most major quality courses, this week's track rewards the longer golfers off the tee. It requires a very well-rounded game from tee to green. It is not necessarily a bomber's paradise like we saw last week at TPC Craig Ranch, but there is an advantage to those who are to have distance off the tee. We have seen some fairway finders have some success here, so it's not skewed one way or the other. But again, off the tee is pretty important, nonetheless, in my opinion, this week. With the course set up for non-major with wider fairway, shorter roughs, it helps those who lack distance off the tee have an advantage, because if you're short off the tee and you're missing the fairway in a major quality course, you're going to have a hard time. So with the decreased rough and wider fairways, it can help those guys get their approach shots tuned up from 175 plus, where the majority of those approach shots will come this week. Golfers will be required to scramble for pars this week, as a winning score has surpassed 12 under par just twice over the last 7 years. Of course, last year, Wyndham Clark won at -19, but as I mentioned, he had a berserk Sunday that really just propelled himself out of being caught. The greens this week are Bermuda, and boy, are they fast. Some of the fastest greens we see on the PGA Tour each and every season. Got to be confident with the flat stick this week and avoid those big 3 putts. It can be very easy to do on this golf course. So the fast greens and long approach shots, I mentioned 175 plus being the most common of the distances. Holding these greens are rather difficult, so around the green will be important this week as well. Again, in these, I worded this kind of weird. These low scoring affairs. Yeah, it's a high scoring affair, right? It's not a birdie fest. So in golf, you want to go low. But either way, taking advantage of the par fives are a must. So those who could do well in the par fives will see the advantage. But in all, it takes a lot to claim a victory here at Quail Hollow. A very well run golf course. And of course, not up to major specs, but hosting an elevated event, you think they'll throw some bite into it, opposed to some of the years past. So let's move on. We have the course, facts, history, all of that behind us. I forgot to mention, or I guess ask you, Jake, anything you want to mention about the course before we move forward?
Nope, you covered it.
There we go. So on to our DFS suggestions here for this week. What we do each week is have 5 monetary categories according to DraftKings pricing of $10,000 plus, the nines, the eights, the sevens, 1600 and below. Jake, I'm missing that 5,900 below price range we got for a few weeks back then. That was a fun
Yeah,
time. I hope that comes back at some point, but I don't think it's going to. All right.
nope.
So let's kick it off here, Jake. $10,000 plus, very limited field this week in those options, as it seems to be every week now, right? But I
Yep.
guess if you are playing someone here, who is it and why?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to play Aberg. I believe he was in this range, but
Yep.
he backed out with a knee injury, which is very concerning, I would say. I don't know the severity of that or what it is, but hopefully speedy recovery and hopefully we could see him next week. But I'm going to Rory McIlroy at 11-8. It was between him and Wyndham Clark, right? And I think that more people are going to go to Wyndham Clark at, $1,300 cheaper, and that's what brought me to Rory McIlroy here. Obviously Xander's a great option too, but Rory has won at this course 3 times in 2021, 2015, and 2010. His worst finish here. He missed the cut in 2011. He was T47 here last year, and then he had a T6 or T22 as his worst finish in like 10 or 11 starts here. So this guy has decorated the top 10 with 3 wins at this course in particular, coming off a win at the Zurich with Shane Lowry as his teammate. You know what you're getting with Rory. Super long off the tee, absolutely elite on approach. The putting is above average. I know that sometimes it can be what, stops Rory from winning, but I just think his game is there and he loves Quail Hollow, it seems like. So hard to not go to him at the top of the range when I think just more people are going to end up on Wyndham Clark at cheaper.
Yeah, it does make sense there. And of course, can't go wrong with a guy who's won here 3 times since 2010. And you mentioned it. Outside of winning, I mean, he just is in contention right here at Quail Hollow. And it's a course that suits his game really well. It's proven there with those past results and everything like that. But yeah, you mentioned my guy. I'm going to Xander Schauffele here at 11.5, second most expensive guy to just Rory this week. Again, people opting to go Rory or Wyndham around him. So I think Xander's going to have a discount of an ownership because of that. But man, stats wise, you window or Xander's going to top my model each and every week at this point. I mean, Scotty is going to be there as well. But man, Xander is having himself a crazy season. If it wasn't for Scotty, we'd be talking about the world's #1 guy right here at Xander Schauffele, possibly. I mean, he's currently second in tour in 3-putt avoidance, third in bogey avoidance, fifth in scrambling, sixth in par 5 average scored, 11th in birdie or better, 12th in proximate hole for 175 plus. He's also 27th in approach and around the green, 34th in regulations. I mean, I can go on, and all these stats are going to be really low. I had 12 stats I used for a model this week. He ranked in the top 44 in all 12, right? So
Yeah.
outside of that, and outside of a rain shortened AT&T Pebble Beach Pro Am, where his worst finish on the entire season has been T25, right? Um, yeah, that was back to the API as well. Dating
Yep.
back to then, he's gone T second at the Players, T fifth at the Valspar, eighth at the Masters, and T 18th at the RPC Heritage. So at 11 events he's played this season, he's been top 25 in 10 of them. So just one event mentioned at the AT&T Vero Beach Pro Am. He's been top 10 in 7 of them and top 5 in 4 of them. So at that rate, he's placing top 10 64% of the time and top 5 36% of the time. Simply at this point cannot build a DFS lineup without a guaranteed top 5, without a guaranteed top 10. No Scotty Scheffler. You mentioned no Ludwig Aberg this week, who was very popular in my models and everyone else's models and things like that. I think it's a sure bet that Xander's going to be in contention this week. 68-man field, top 5, guaranteed top 10 at least. And a guy you're going to a decent discount ownership because of his price and those guys around him.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to be the lowest owned in this section. And like you said, I mean, the AT&T Pebble Beach, that was a 54-hole tournament with absolutely bonkers conditions. Like, you could throw that one out the door pretty much. So, I mean, Xander's as sure thing as it comes, right? Especially in a field like this without Scotty Scheffler, he's probably your safest bet here. And at a discounted ownership, it's hard not to play him in your lineups.
100%. So move on to our 9K price range. Both my options here are going to be owned rather well, in my opinion. I mean, I think this 9K range is all going to be owned rather highly this week. And again, we're at a 68 man field. Everyone's going to be owned. There's going to be
Yeah.
very limited chances for disparity here this week. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with Sahith Theegala at 9-1, right? Again, for position wise, he's had a killer season. And as of late, he's done crazy too. So he placed second in his last outing to just Scotty Scheffler at the RPC Heritage, although many strokes back, he was still second place there. He also has 6 top 25s in the season, five top tens, and 3 top 5s. And he's done very well in these signature events this season. Along with a runner-up performance at RPC Heritage, he's gone T9th at the Players, T6th at the API, and second at the Century Tournament of Champions. So when it's name calls for these big events, these elevated events, he's stepping up. He's doing well. Stats wise, he matches up perfectly here this week. Maybe around the greens a little iffy, but then everything else is rather above average or elite. I would say with Sahith Theegala, 9-1 price range. You're spending up for Xander at 11-3, trying to save it for yourself a few dollars. Match him with Sahith at 9-1. Perfect pairing in my opinion, and two of the hotter guys on tour on the season.
Yeah, you don't need to twist my arm to place the Heath. He's one of those guys that when the spotlight comes on, he is not afraid of it. Again, we know pretty early. I think we made this reference before with like Akshay Bhatia by like hole 3, you know what you're getting. I think it's a similar situation with Bhatia, right? Like, I mean, with Sahith Theegala, you know pretty early on if he's going to be contending on Sunday. He doesn't usually like fire in like a. I mean, he has the ability to fire in like a 62, 61, but you know pretty early on when he's going 4 or 5 under, being consistent with that number that he's going to be in contention on Sunday and make a run at it. And he's proven that he could win, right? He didn't win too far ago. He won at the Fortinet in September. So, not too long ago in the winner's circle, having a great season. I love Tagala. You don't need to twist my arm there for the 9K range. He is going to be popular, but I'll be on him outright for sure. But going to my 9K play, I think that this guy's going to be the lowest owned according to my model, and I was kind of surprised by this. I'm going with Morikawa at 9,300. Um, Having like a quietly good season. He had a little lull in the middle between the API and the Valero Texas Open where it kind of just looked lost, but the Masters, he was T3. RBC Heritage, he was solo ninth. The Zurich, I know, is a team event, but he was T23. Like, he's kind of rounded out his form a bit. He's played at Quail Hollow once and missed the cut, but I like what his game brings, right? He's not long off the tee per se, but super accurate, elite on approach, especially with those long irons, great around the green. And the putter is what makes him win or lose each week. So I'm willing to just ride the putter that seems to be hot. He gained almost a stroke with the putter per round at the Masters and the RBC Heritage. So if he can keep that putter rolling, I like where his game shapes up to play well here.
Yeah, as you say, I don't twist your arm about Seth Gall, you don't twist my arm about Colin Morikawa. Love this guy. You mentioned it. He's not long off the tee, but what he does is he's really good with long irons. So he makes up for the lack of distance there off the tee with those long irons. I mean, they're it's the same thing if you're super long off the tee and you're kind of modest with your middle to short irons than if you're short off the tee and elite with your long irons. Same distance to get the hole, just a different way to do it, right? So Morikawa does it that way. I mean, he's won majors, he's won many times in the PGA Tour. Nothing about it, missed kind of Quill Hollow, so be it once before. I mean, this is a track that not many people have a lot of history on because the event wasn't an important one for many years. Love Morikawa, great value, and again, lowest owned in this group. I mean, my other play here is Max Homa at 9-4, going to be very popular. 2-time winner here. What was he? And then he plays like T2 in 2021 or something. So Max Homa's going to be very popular this week. Stat wise, Max Homa's all the board and on my outright card. But again, got to find some disparity here, especially this week in 68 man field for DFS lineup. So all right, on to our 8K plays this week. This is where things get a little interesting. This is one yours to kick off here, Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the most popular guy in this range, and I think rightly so. I'm going with Justin Thomas at 8,500. I thought he was pretty mispriced here. I know he's been in a little bit of weird form, but T5 at the RBC Heritage, so might have found something out. He recently made a caddy change, bounces off the bag. He's got a new caddy. They're working together. Obviously, the RBC Heritage, I'm pretty sure, was their first tournament together, if not second. But played super well there, gained across the board, and also, as mentioned in the course preview, he's won it at Quail Hollow before in 2017 PGA Championship. And even last year, when we saw Justin Thomas as lost as we've ever seen him, he finished T14 here, and he's also had great finishes throughout his career. T26, T21, and a T7 also to accompany all those, including a win. So couldn't get away from what I'm looking for. Long off the tee, a lead on approach, a lead around the green. The putter leaves much to be desired for, but he gained almost a stroke per round at the RBC Heritage. So similar to my outlook for Colin Morikawa, if he can keep the putter hot from RBC Heritage,
Yeah, I think I lost you there, but right there with you, man. Justin Thomas, he's always going to be a quality play. I know it's not the sexiest of plays right now because his form is what it is, and he's not Justin Thomas of past where he was when he won a major here many years ago, but he's still Justin Thomas, right? He still has the it factor about him, and when he can turn it on, it'll be a big difference. You mentioned the caddy change. That's going to be absolutely crucial for him once he finally gets that connection with that caddy and the trust there between each other going. It's going to be a world of difference for Justin Thomas. And hopefully he gets back to where he once was and can be because, again, he's one of those guys where I feel like the game is better when he is in contention each and every week. So hopefully it is this week. On the outright aspect, I do love Matt Fitzpatrick in this price range at 8-7, but strictly for DFS, I'm going to go for Siwoo Kim. Again, not the sexy pick at 8-6, but what he does is he's a model of consistency, right? Siwoo Kim is going to, again, nope, made cut this week, but he's placed in the top 30 in each of his last 6 outings this season, including T13th last week at the CJ Cup or the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. The knock about Siwoo Kim, he's not long off the tee, right? And he has a rather poor putter. Again, T13 in the Bomber's Paradise last week at the Byron Nelson goes to show that he can compete with these guys, even if he has a lack of distance off the tee. And when it comes to putting, I mean, he has 6 straight top 30s while losing at least a stroke on the greens. It's not like he's having, scattered results where he does have a hot putter. So he's doing this without a quality putter, losing strokes and still top 30s, top 25s every single week. So the one option or the one time he does get a hot putter, he's going to skyrocket up these boards. I know this may not be the week with it with these very fast and firm Bermuda greens, but if he is to grab a hot putter out of nowhere, man, he's going to really skyrocket because the rest of the game is there. The rest of the game is sound. And he's proven this season that he can have repeated success without that putter. So again, just kind of betting on him because there's a very safe floor with what you're getting here with Siwoo Kim with the top 25. But in the event that the putter does arrive, this is a top 5, top 10, the guy that, again, with the Justin Thomases, the Matt Fitzpatricks around him in the same price range, can be the difference in your lineups this week.
yeah, you covered it well. I mean, high ceiling, right, but also a high floor. So a great DFS option for sure.
There we go. All right, 7K price range. And, I'm going to steal another one of your guys. I already went with Figala, so might as well go with Akshay here, right? At 7-5.
Yep.
Going to be a popular play this week. So if you're looking for some guy that isn't going to have a high ownership, steer away because Batia is definitely going to have it. But man, guy is currently 6th on tour and approaching. What used to be the knock to Akshay Bhatia, right, was super wild off the tee and a very poor putter. Currently 19th on tour in driving accuracy, so he's figured that out, right? He is also 30th on tour in strokes gained putting Bermuda. So the big 2 questions about his game, he has fixed. He has figured it out on top of being an elite ball striker, world-class ball striker, world-class approach player. He does have some plus distance off the tee. Good at scrambling, good at par 5, great regulations. I mean, he's got all you want as long as he keeps that putter rolling, right? Again, some great performances on the season. He had a run of 3 missed cuts early this season between the WM Phoenix Open and the Players, but since then, he's gone on to win the Valero Texas Open. He placed T11 at the Texas Children's Houston Open, T17 at the Valspar, T18 at the RPC Heritage, and T35th in his debut at the Masters. So a great resume for someone here in this price range. Again, ownership will be rather high, but again, So isn't everyone in the DFS this week. So I haven't really paid too much attention to DFS ownership because of that. But again, he's going to be really highly owned.
Yeah, I mean, his approach has been bonkers over the last month, like absolutely elite. I'm going to be all over Akshay in the outright market. I think he's going to be a little too popular for me in DFS, but that being said, if he wins the tournament this week, he's
Doesn't
going to
matter.
help you in DraftKings. Exactly. Um, in the winner's circle fairly recently, and I think I drew this comparison, this season to Aberg a little bit, where he's the rare mix of long and accurate off the tee. Um, it's been a little bit amiss over the last couple of weeks with the distance and accuracy, but over the long-term course of the season, he's been long and accurate. So I think he's a great option this week, especially with that elite approach play and also gaining with the flat stick in 5 straight tournaments. That's huge.
It is. It is.
But moving on to my play here, I'm going with Adam Scott at 7,700. Not a sexy name, right? I mean, he has one miscut this season. He has a ton of top 10s and top 20s. So playing some really good golf kind of quietly. Also has some really good course history here at Quail Hollow. A T5 last year, a T17 back in 2016, and then obviously throwing it all the way back with Adam Scott. 2008 to 2005, he went T16, solo third, T24, and T8. So he has a pretty extensive history at this course, which I like to see, and he's playing some great golf. As of recent, it hasn't been anything like too crazy. A T30 at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, a T22 at the Masters, T14 at the Valero Texas Open. Um, Good enough to warrant a DraftKings play, in my opinion. He's long off the tee, good on approach, great with the putter. The driving accuracy is where it goes a little bit amiss for Adam Scott, but I'm not too worried here at 7,700 coming in at probably single digit ownership.
Yeah, he was a guy I took a long look at, even on the outright market. Right, the past results here is really what interested me. Guy been around for a long time. He's played every course multiple times. He's done that, been there, done that. Former PGA Tour winner, all of that. Adam Scott, that is. So yeah, it was a guy I took a long look at. Of course, I opted for Akshay, and then of course Tom Hoagie's my other play at 7,200. I just love myself some Hoagie, right? I can't steer myself away. But yeah, I love the Adam Scott play. So let's move on to our final price range here for the Wells Fargo Championship, 1,600 and below. Jake, where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I'm going with Kurt Kitayama at 6,800. He just kind of makes sense, right? Like he's won on the PGA Tour before. He's going to be fairly popular in this range, so tread with caution here. But long off the tee, super great on approach. Like he brings that week in and week out. Um, hard to like in this range, right? We say this all the time. You're trying to find one facet of the game that you hang your hat on and hope the rest comes along with it. But with Kitsuyama, I could argue that you're getting two. You're getting the driving distance and you're getting the approach. The putter, it leaves much to be desired. That's where he tends to lose strokes. But this season, it's been a bit of an up and down roller coaster with the putter. So I'm hoping to catch it on the way up.
Yeah, I mean, Kitayama's on my outright card, and he's the second name written up in my article this week. I mean, it feels like, when you're in this price range realistically in an event like this, these guys aren't going to win, right? I mean,
Yeah.
realistically
Low win
speaking.
equity.
But Kurt Kitayama can win these events. He's won these events. He won the API a season ago. He's won before. He's done that. So he of these names, I think he has the best win equity in the entire price range down here in an event of this caliber, right? He has the
For
ability
sure.
to spike, and when he spikes, he goes berserk. It's not like a slight one stroke difference. This guy spikes to 3 or 4 strokes different. He has just huge weeks, and you can have that. I mean, he doesn't seem to be scared of these type of stages. Again, API victory a season ago, or was it the Players? No, API, right?
API sounds right. Let me
One
double,
of those
let me
two.
fact check you.
One of those two he won. I mean, they're back to back weeks, and
They're both huge.
they're both huge. They're both in Florida. They're right there, right? You can see why I mixed those up.
API.
API, of course. Okay, yeah, because Scotty went back to back to the Players, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, blah. Anyways, yeah, I do love Kitayama this week for that reason. I mean, again, on my outright card as well. So moving on here to my play is Matthew Pavon, a guy I seem to gravitate towards in this price range each and every week. Just a great DFS play, it seems like, right? The biggest aspect to me each and every week is the approach. Why? Because you take more approach shots than any other shot on the golf course. You only hit the driver or you hit a tee shot once per hole, maybe what 13 times because they don't count the par three because that's an approach. So par fours, par fives, that's off the tee. Again, you're taking multiple shots on a par five. You're going in on the four. Again, unless you're a real bad putter and you're three putting everything, the approach shot is what you use the most of on a golf course. So that's where I gravitate towards too most. And Pavon is a fantastic approach player, and that was a long way of me getting to that point. Again, a great season. He's won already at the Farmers Insurance Open, placed third at the AT&T Beach Pro-Am, T7 at the Sony Open back in Hawaii. But since he's come back to earth, but then T12th in his debut at the Masters. That's big, right? Then he is currently 13th on tour in driving accuracy. He's 14th in approach, 25th in birdie or better, 29th in approximate hole for 175 plus. So he's above average in his long irons. He's accurate off the tee, top in green regulations. He's an above average putter on Bermuda. Just everything you want this week. Around the green, not the best, but again, the approach play is phenomenal here for Pavon. Again, we're not looking for a super polished guy here in the 6,900 and below price range. We're looking for guys who are strong in one area pretty much and riding that to the bank. And that's what I think Pavon has this week.
Yeah, and I mean the putter's gone a miss for him recently, but generally speaking, he's a great putter. So if he can get that flat stick going for him and bring along the rest of his game, I think that he can have a great week. Similar to Kitsuyama, the two of those feel like the safest play, right? To make the cut and have a high ceiling, like I think both of those guys could win this tournament, like
Oh yeah,
for sure. Opposed to like, let's say you're going with like Eric Cole. No offense to
no,
the Eric
no.
Cole homers out there, but like
There's
the
a lot
guy's
of
not
them too.
freaking
For some
winning this
reason,
tournament.
I would never understand the Eric Cole hype and why he just
Yeah.
has religious bettors each every week. This is coming from a guy who bets Kevin you every single week too. So maybe I don't have room to talk.
Yeah. We all have the one guy.
All right, guys. Yeah, a good point there. Good point there. Pavon has won this season. He's new to the PGA Tour, but he's a veteran. I mean, he's been around for a while on the DP World Tour. It's not like he's 21, 22 years old. He's in his late 20s. So definitely been around, played a lot of golf, and played a lot of big tournaments along the way. So DFS
Oh,
plays for
sorry.
the.
One more guy I have to mention.
Okay.
Jake Knapp is going to be so freaking high owned. Please, for the love of God, if you're a Jake Knapp homer, sure, you could play an outright on him for fun. But please, at 6,500 and 10% ownership, I beg you not to play him. It is not worth it. It is
Yeah,
not worth it.
that was brutal. Yeah, or last week on Sunday too, watching him play
Oh,
golf.
yes, it was a misery.
All right, there you go. That was I mean, at this point, if you hear this and you continue to play Jake Knapp, that one's on you, right? There's
Yep.
nothing about that. We warned you. All right, DFS plays for the Wells Fargo behind us. Let's move on to our betting card. Each and every week, we have three categories here. Of course, we have our overall favorite, self-explanatory. If we can place a bet on one guy this week, who would it be and why? Our personal favorite may be where someone we're in on the community's out on, a personal favorite golfer, someone with great value, and of course, our long shot again, self-explanatory, longest odds we're on for the week. Jake, you have one bet to place this week. Who is it and why?
Yep, I already spoke about him. It's going to be Justin Thomas. I think the caddy change is great for him, and I think I loved what I saw at the RBC Heritage. I think he continues it this week and takes down the tournament.
There we go. And mine's Max Homa. I love what he's been doing recently. I know he had a fall back at the RPC Heritage after a fantastic performance at the Masters. It's easy to do, right? The Masters hangover
Yeah.
is a real thing. And, if we look at what Max Homa's done this season, he's had some good performances, but he's followed each of his good performances up with a bad performance in his next outing. So good performance at the Masters, bad performance at the RPC. He's in line for a good performance this week if the trend continues. Won here twice before. This is his time and his course to finally break through and win a big event on the PGA Tour. I'm here for it. 2,500, 25 to 1, excuse me, is where I have Max Homa this week. Personal favorite here. I have a small card this week, Jake. I only have 4 guys on my card this week. Usually I have 6. So somewhere in the mid, man. Of course I'm on Fitzpatrick at 33 to 1, but I think Steven Yeager here at 66 to 1 is my favorite value play this week. Didn't talk about him yet, but man, quietly been one of the best golfers on the PGA Tour this season. I mean, he got that victory back in the Texas Children's Houston Open that's been eluded him for a long time. We take a trip back to T3 of the Farmers Insurance Open, which again I was on him with a multi-shot, 54-hole lead that he blew for me. Also T3 of Mexico Open. Recently T18th RPC Heritage. T20th last week at the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson, man, just great results there last year. T27th at this event in T6 in 2022. So some decent performances at this event in years past. And he's very good around the green. Birdies are betters. He does well. Average driving distance, he's plus there. Scrambling, par fives, bogey avoidance, green regulations, even putting approach, everything you want this week. He's very well, and I think he's just going to be a nice middle of the pack type of guy, 66 to 1, which in this field kind of is a long shot because of how few people are here and how this tournament's being priced without Scotty Scheffler and now without Ludwig Aberg. Of course, these bets
Yep.
were placed before Aberg withdrew, and of course at 12 to 1. Again, not touching Aberg anywhere in the world at 12 to 1 to begin with. I don't
No.
care if he's my model's favorite by 400 points. I'm not touching Aberg at 12 to 1. Either way,
Yeah.
yeah, Steven Yeager 66 to 1 is my play on this price range.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like that call out too. My favorite bet this week, I think a lot of people are out on this guy, and I truly don't understand why. I'm going with Hideki Matsuyama at 33 to 1. I thought that number was super disrespectful. Everyone was on him at the Masters, and a hyped up Hideki is not a good Hideki.
No.
But he still had a T38 finish, which is fine, right? When you're betting the outright, you want your guy to win and give you guys give you a sweat. But I'm not throwing in the towel on Hideki with a T38. His ball striking before that was extremely elite. He won at the Genesis and followed up his win at the Genesis with a T12 at the API, T6 at the Players, a T7 at the Valero Texas Open. I am not ready to give up on Hideki. I think that this is a disrespectful number, a super fair number to bet him outright at. He's had a T5 here at the 2017 PGA Championship that Justin Thomas won. In 2016, he had a T11, 2015 T20. So he hasn't missed the cut at this tournament before. I think he's a great outright bet this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of scared from the withdrawal last week, just kind of what the concern may be with his back and recent health issues. But again, just load management. All it was, he was just preserving himself, withdrew for the tournament. Been playing a lot of golf recently. Why not, right? So
Right.
this week, again, the Masters, a lot of people were on them down there. So I see why people are out on him, but there's no right or no reason to do that. I mean, if I didn't have Fitzpatrick at 33 to 1, Hideki was my next guy in my card at the same number myself. So that's where I went with that. So, Jake, long shot this week, longest odds you're on.
Yeah, I think we might be on the same guy here. It's going to be Kurt Kitayama. So I just think he has win equity at triple digits in a short field. How do I not take a shot on him, right?
Exactly. I mean, nothing else we talk about. We talked about him in the DFS suggestions. Same thing. I mean, how many guys 100 to 1 in a 68 man field have win equity? Probably zero. So that's why I'm right there with you. So that's it for Wells Fargo Championship. Jake, anything else about the event, course, field,
Uh,
anything I want to mention before we move forward?
nope, nope.
All
Think we
right,
covered it.
guys. As previously mentioned, when you open this show, we have an opposite field event, as they're called. I think I referred to them as alternate field events before. Opposite field events. Myrtle Beach Classic here, the inaugural playing here in the golf capital of the world in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Um, the Dunes Golf and Beach Club will play host this week. Serves as a third of five alternate, or excuse me, see, I did that. Opposite field event of the season. Uh, you know, despite being an opposite field event too, a really good field. Well, it was better when it opened. Now that about half of it has withdrawn, but playing opposite a 68 man field, there's opportunity for some great golfers to play this week. And I mean, there still are. We've seen some of the bigger names withdraw at this point, but hey, we still have some golf to talk about this week. The field now headlined by Eric Van Rooyen as the odds-on favorite to win alongside Daniel Berger. Other notable names: Davis Thompson, Ben Griffin, Bo Hostler, Victor Perez, Rio Histune, Ryan Fox, if none of them have withdrawn by the time we've recorded this podcast. Corn Ferry Tour veteran Matt Aikens will be teaming up this week as one of the more notable non-PGA Tour guys that may have some win equity in his belt as well. Been around the Corn Ferry Tour for a very long time, but in all, I lost track because of the withdrawals, but I believe there's roughly 30 former PGA Tour winners in this week's field. So again, for an opposite field event, not a bad field whatsoever. Typically, well, not typically with the new reduced signature event fields, but historically speaking, these opposite field events would be what, 12 names you actually heard of, and the rest would just be fill-ins. Corn Ferry Tour guys, the bottom of the barrel PGA, and all of that, guys scrambling for their first PGA Tour victory. But again, with the elevated events being short fields this week or this season, it has helped these opposite field events nonetheless. But all right, I'm gonna preface this. this is, we've never seen this course before, so this is all speculation, reading videos on the internet, what I put together here. So take this with a grain of salt, 100%, as I go through the course facts and history here. So the Dunes Golf and Beach Club plays host this week, par 71 at 7,347 yards. Annually ranks as one of the, ranks highly in golf world's top 100 courses in the United States. It is one of Robert Trent Jones Sr.'s earliest designs in his career, opened in 1948. Although appearing on the PGA Tour for the first time, it has hosted many high-end golf tournaments, including the former Charles Schwab Cup Championship on the Champion Tour between '94 and '99. If we take a look all the way back to 1962, it held the USGA Women's Open as well there. But the Dunes and Beach Club is best known for its three-hole stretch nicknamed Alligator Alley. Wonder why it has that name. It includes holes 11, 12, and 13. In that stretch of holes is the course's most famous hole, the 590-yard par 5 13th named Boomerang. Why is it called Boomerang? Because it's essentially the shape of an arch around a lake. What is it? Dunes Lake, actually. So shaped like a boomerang, exactly, right? The course underwent extensive renovations over the last 20 years, spearheaded by Trent Jones's youngest son, Reese Jones, a guy who, again, pretty well known in the golf world. And those renovations, there was refinement of some green sites, addition of fairway bunkers, course lengthening, a new irrigation system, and practice tee enhancement. The biggest change those came as the greens were converted to champion ultra dwarf Bermuda grass to better perform in warm weather. The greens were also expanded to roughly 6,000 square feet on average. And extensive drainage work was also performed due to that, combined with the course sitting on a natural sandy area. Conditions should be firm and fast. The fairways featured this week are also rather narrow, averaging 20 to 25 yards in width, and are heavily tree lined as well. The rough consists of a 2-inch overseeded ryegrass that adds to the importance of finding the fairways, in my opinion. So holding the greens far out of this rough, along with the expected firm and fast conditions of this course in general, will be a challenge and will be rather difficult. So as many as 16 of 18 greens are also bunkered on the left and the right, so misses to either side will result in some sand. And the other two holes are only bunkered on the front right, so rather wide open there. But Jake, anything else through your research about this course that you have stumbled upon that I have not mentioned?
No, I think you covered it well. I mean, it is hard to gain course knowledge or even have an estimate if not seeing these pros on it. So taking this tournament with a huge grain of salt. I'm just playing a few bullets here and not going too crazy on the budget.
I will mention this is much easier to find information on than the new courses on the DP World Tour that get thrown our way. Because there's times where I'll find 3 or 4 lines of information about a course on the DP World Tour, especially being new, and I have to come up with a full breakdown and important stats. That's a big challenge. So this week it was a little bit easier
Yeah.
in that aspect, but hey, like you said, still a course we have never seen before. So let's move on to our betting card here, Jake. I have 5 names with me this week. How many do you have?
Yep, I got 5 too.
All right, let's kick it off then, Jake. Who's your first of 5 this week?
Yeah, I wasn't too happy to see how popular this guy was, but I'm going with Matt Wallace this week. Just, I mean, he loves to beat up these crappy fields. It's one of those gut shot plays where like I said, he likes to beat up these crappy fields. He had a T4 finish at the CJ Byron Nelson. So coming off of a really good finish at, a crappier field event where he should thrive, he's long off the tee, above average on approach around the green and with the putter. He struggles with driving accuracy, but um, again, just a gut shot play here on Matt Wallace. He's garnered a lot of popularity through the Twitterverse. So, be careful with this one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I forgot to mention that. I am a bit excited about this opposite field event because typically opposite field events are what? Long birdie fest courses in a tropical area. I mean, we're still in Myrtle Beach, we're still in South Carolina. It's still somewhat tropical, right? But it's not like it's Bermuda, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Dominican Republic. This is, still stateside. And the course isn't your typical, 7,600-yard bomber's paradise where you just see who can get to minus 30 or minus 28 the fastest, right? This
Mhm.
course, narrow fairways, some tough conditions, some tough, longer, rough, tree lined, all of that. So I think this is going to be great. This will be fun to watch. Opposed to, again, I don't really have an interest. I'm not going to lie, watching Puerto Rico or Punta Cana, where again it's just the same looking course just a different place that we'll see who can hit it the longest, who can get to the hole the fastest, because that's all it is. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, Matt Wallace, very popular on Twitter this week, for for the right reasons, right? Very great performances last week. But my favorite guy this week, and man, I don't know about you, Jake, but I was shopping odds this week, man. They were all over the place. Like I
Yeah.
would see someone at like 25-1, and the next book would have them like 60-1. You're like, you don't see that, right? Usually
Yeah.
they're off by like,
5
if
points.
one's 25, one's 30, if one's 30, one's 33. So, like, for example, Victor Perez is my favorite play this week. 50-1 is where I ended up on him. But I mean, some of the books have him down to 25, 30. And I found a 50. So I'm like definitely taking that number. And yeah, a lot of these guys I'm going to mention this week have really varying, prices across the books. But man, Perez, he's seventh on tour in green regulations. He's 16th in approach, so starting right there. Green regulations, if you can get the ball there with a chance to birdie putt or eagle putt, I mean, that's where it all starts, right? With golf is getting to those negative numbers, so that's big there. 64th in approximately the hole from 150 to 200. I took that number again. That's kind of a gut play of where I feel like golfers are. There's no stats like 35% of approach shots come from 175 plus, as I normally come up with. This one is just kind of just the way the course is taken in relation to, like, I took into the RSM Classic a bit because it's nearby, kind of a tree line, yet a little exposed with narrow fairways, golf course, although the RSM Classic's shorter, CI also. I took that into consideration a little bit to come up with that number, but yeah, again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt because I'm maybe reaching here, but again, I don't think it's that far fetched to go 150, 200 approach shots for this golf course. Above average in putting on Bermuda. I mean, he's made 6 of his last 7 cuts, including a T3rd at the Puerto Rico, T16 at the Cognizant Classic, and T17 at the Texas Children's Houston Open. Some good performances there. Third in an alternate or opposite field event already. Approach fantastic. Green regulation fantastic. Above average putting. What else do you want here for a 50-1 number in an alternate field event?
Yeah, no, you definitely cannot ask for much more in this field. I mean, he's down to 40, I see. I mean, like you said, it's so important to line shop on a general week just to get those few extra points. But, this week in particular, especially a course that's like never been seen before, these books are scrambling for odds. So yeah, I like that option. I am definitely going to consider him after this podcast to add.
I mean, we already saw a French graduate of the DP World Tour win already. So why not another one?
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right. I mean, my next play is pretty self-explanatory here, Jake. So I might as well leapfrog you and here and go with Kevin Yu at 50-1. Why not? Again, if Kevin Yu is in a golf field, there's a good chance I'm going to bet on him. Not because half the time I believe he's going to win a golf court or golf event. It's simply because of the FOMO and fear of missing out. Because if at any point Kevin Yu wins a golf tournament and he's not my betting card, I'm gonna have to end my golf betting career, whatever you want to call what we do here, because I've backed this guy so many times. I've been one of the first champions of Kevin Yu on Twitter there has ever been. So again, I have to be there when it happens. I have to be there. So I mean, even if I don't list him on my card, just know that he is on my betting card behind the scenes. But again, this week, it's not like it's far fetched for Kevin Yu to come out here and win this golf event, right? 50-1, it's not like it's a super low number. I mean, there's some books that have him at 30, 35. I mean, it's been a while, but he's had some good performance in the season. T3rd American Express, T6 Farmer Insurance, T9th Cognizant Classic. So his form as of late has not been great. Missed the cut last week at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. But man, again, like Kurt Kitayama, this guy has the opportunity to spike on any given week. And again, it's the putter for Kevin Yu, right? Everything matches up, ball striking, plus distance, driving accuracy, not everything else not too bad, but the putter, he's very bad at the putter. But hey, take a look back to the Farmers Insurance Open where he had a T6. He gained 2.893 strokes putting on the greens. You have a +3 putting week, you're gonna be contention. I don't care who you are, mainly. But yeah, especially for someone like Kevin Yu in this field, just hoping for a hot putter week, and I'm just hoping that he wins because if he wins and gets that maiden victory, I can finally take him off my betting cards.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, especially a course that's just such a mystery to everyone, right? Like you got to just play some of your gut shot feels. Like Kevin Yu for you, like that was a lock on your card. Like we all knew that was happening, probably your first click. But like you said, like if he wins, like of course you'll be excited and happy, but you'll also like it's going to be relief. Like, oh my God,
Oh
I
my
can
gosh.
finally stop freaking backing this guy. But
Or it's
like
gonna
you
be one of
said,
those
like,
things where he finally wins, and it's just a small victory for me because again, I've been betting this guy for 2 years. I've been backing him, talking him up for so long that it's finally like, hey, I actually believe this would happen, and it finally did.
exactly. It's a moral win because the long run, it's probably just a money pit of
Oh yeah,
losses
I
to
mean,
just
if
cut
he hits a
back.
55 to 1, who knows if I'm actually making money at this point? But
Exactly. But I mean, his top 10 finishes throughout his PGA Tour have or career have been with him spiking with the putter and on a course that we don't really know much about. Like, you got to take your chance. Like, he is one of the more talented people in this field, I do believe.
of course, who's your next player, Jake?
Yeah, my next play here is going to be Justin Lauer, another popular guy, but I just think he's, you know, with not knowing too much about this course, he's in some great form. His last five appearances, he has a T28, a T25, a T4, T28, T24. So littering that top 30 in some bigger-ish events, I guess like the Houston Open, and the CJ Byron Cup, but like he had a T4 at the Corrales Punta Cana Open, which is one of those crap field events, which is where we are again this week. A pretty well-rounded golfer. He's slightly below average off the tee and around the green, but he's pretty decently above average with the flat sticking on approach. So just trying to ride that form into a crappier field event and try to catch a spike week where he could win.
Yeah, I mean he's the next guy on my list as well. 55 to 1, Justin Lauer as well. Again, you mentioned it popular, probably because what he did the last, opposite field event, T4, the Corals Punta Championship. But you mentioned everything else there. Just some great, top 30, top 25 performances as of late with that top four in there as well. I mean, he's also very good on tour when it comes to approach shots of 150 to 200. He's fifth there, 20th in par four, 30th in green regulations, 46th in approach. Just slightly above average, maybe a little below average in putting in Bermuda, but again, in this field, he's above average. So yeah, I mean, all of that just points to a good week for Justin Lauer. He's my third guy on my card.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad that we're riding him together. So hopefully he can come through for both of us. But my next pick here was a star, a circle, like everything. This is if I could place one bet on this tournament, it was going to be this guy no matter what. It's Rio Hisasuni at 40 to 1. DP World Tour guy, like plays challenging courses, hasn't really gotten his feet under him on the PGA Tour, but a T13 last week at the CJ Byron Cup, Nelson, or whoa,
You just
that
acted like
was
me there. That was me.
that was a blunder. The CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. So a really good finish there. A T18 back in Puerto Rico towards the beginning of this year. So crappier field event, a T20. I think that he's built to win tournaments, right? In his last 25 starts, he has a win. It was at the Kazoo Open de France in September. So he won on the DP World Tour before coming over to the PGA World or to the PGA Tour. Oh my God. But also his game is just very well rounded. Solid driver of the golf ball, a little bit left to be desired on approach, but relatively average. Great short game, good around the green, good with the putters. So, 40 to 1 I thought was more than fair in a tournament that we don't know how it's going to play out, and I think he has some win equity here.
Yeah, I've been in Rio a lot this season, multiple times, especially in DFS and multiple times in the outright cards. Absolutely love the guy. Loved him on the DP World Tour. Um, yeah, I believe I was on him last season at Kazoo, France when he won there. But
Yeah.
man, the Japanese golf world right now is buzzing, right? We have Matsuyama who won an elevated event, playing well on the PGA Tour. We've had three different Japanese winners on the DP World Tour recently. Um, between I'm not going to try to name them because I couldn't because again I butchered their names, but three different Japanese golfers on the DP World Tour have won. Yeah, I mean, why not add another one here to, again, when it comes to Japanese golf, I mean, they treat these guys like, they're the top sports guys in the world, and you love to see it, right? You love to see that type of backing of not only a fandom, but like a whole country behind a guy, right? Because again, when it comes to a country like Japan, I mean, they have so few options with Hideki and Rio here in the PGA than the rest of the guys in the DP. USA is so different because there's 200, 300, 400 guys to back, but it's just so cool to see entire countries backing their handful of guys, their one, two, three type of guys, and Rio would fit that mold for them. But absolutely love Rio, and I'd be gutted if Rio won without me on without on my betting card. But again, I just love to see it because I love him as a golfer, and I love the progression of DP World Tour to the PGA Tour because it's so organic opposed to a lot of these guys who
Yeah.
were just superstars growing up in the United States and just finding themselves on the PGA Tour pretty much handed to them opposed to the route some of these guys have to take to get there from their local to the Asian to or the Japanese to the Asian to the DP and now here to the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
All right, so with after that speech, I guess I'll move on here to Pat Gazire at 88 or 80 to 1. And yeah, I mean, arguably one of the worst golfers on tour this season, right? I mean, why would I possibly back this guy in a golf tournament? He had a stretch of 6 consecutive missed cuts this season between the American Express and the Texas Children's Open. But since then, he's come back to earth. I mean, or not come back to earth. He's done much better. T23rd at the Corals Budokan, T24th at last week's CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Did rather well at the Zurich Classic as well. Again, not a solo event, a team event, but still positive in his mindset. So I mean, he's currently 11th on tour in par four average scoring, T9th in grid regulations, 25th in approach, 46 in birdie or better, 63rd approach shots from 150 to 200, above average putting on Bermuda, 80 to 1. Couldn't go wrong here. And, if you're a guy that believes in, say, the quote unquote like wheel of death that the our Discord talks a lot about. The golf tipper on Twitter, he puts out a wheel of the most popular bets. I mean, I guarantee you Pat Gazire is not going to be on that list, and arguably you'll be the only name on that list, possibly when it pops up, me being Pat Gazire. As I was with Paul Warren last week. So, I mean, if you're a guy that believes in that and, not have the public interest on your betting guys, Kazire is definitely not going to have the public interest this week, but he's playing some decent golf for what I believe he fits his golf course rather well and has some great odds at 80 to 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, over the last 3 weeks, I mean, three top 30 appearance or three top 30 finishes. Oh
Are you
my
all right,
God.
Jake?
I mean, I need a coffee or something. Holy crap. But his long-term statistics, I mean, dear God, you got to just hold your breath and pray.
Yes.
But 80 to 1 in this field, I can't blame you for taking a shot on a guy with three top 30s in a row. But moving on to my next pick, I'm going with Chris Gotterup at 50 to 1. This is kind of a hedge on if this becomes like a bomber's paradise, like you need someone long off the tee, similar to like Pendrith last week. I think that Gotterup is probably the longest in this field, if not a top three long player in this field. Bombs it off the tee, sprays it like no other. Like he could smack the
Yeah.
ball 350 yards off the tee, but God knows where it's going. The putting is also pretty good. So like a weird combo of like long off the tee, great putter, and everything else is just crap around it. But I did like what I see in his last two starts, the CJ Cup Byron Nelson at T24, the Zurich team event, he finished T11. Before that, really nothing to speak of. A lot of missed cuts and like making the cut and finishing dead last situation here. Main issue here is his approach. So if he could spike with the approach, then so be it. It could be his week this week, but the lead in form was good. And in case it becomes a bomber's paradise, I like his chances here.
Yeah, again, everything we're saying is speculation. We don't know facts about this course. I mean, maybe we've seen some drone shots of this course, or that's about it, right? Some guy wrote an article about this in 2017 on the internet that you read, possibly, maybe not me, but yeah, that's where we're getting our information from, right? So we don't know how this course is going to play. It can say whatever it wants on the internet until you put a full field of professional golfers on this course to see how it's going to measure up. I mean, when it comes to professional golf, distance is king, right? That's how we are in today's world, and that's going to always be king. So again, it's a somewhat decently long field, roughly 7,400, 7,350, give or take somewhere that round. So not a short course whatsoever. Again, though, it is, narrow fairways, some decent rough and some tree lines. So we'll see how that goes. But again, you're taking a shot here. We're just all taking shots because, again, we've never seen this course before. So my final play this week, I'm going to go to the veteran Henrik Norlander at 110 to 1. Models rather well this week, so I don't know if my model is where I want it to be, but here we are with Norlander. Currently second in tour and scrambling. Do like that. 15th in approach, 17th in regulations, 37th in accuracy, 45th in par fours, 104th in short game putting Bermuda, 109th approximate hole from 150 to 300. And yeah, I mean, hasn't played a ton this season, just 6 events. but he's made the cut in 5 of them. On top of that, he placed T13th at the Mexico Open of Vedanta, T15th the Puerto Rico Open. So some top 15 performances. And I know Mexico was an opposite field event. Puerto Rico was, but Mexico pretty much should have been an opposite field event, essentially, with the field we saw that week. But yeah, some good performances there in these very smaller field events. I do like that. 110-1 in this field. I mean, this guy's won the PGA Tour several times, a veteran of the game. If it is a course that comes down to accuracy and ball striking, I mean, Stenson has a real possibility of winning this golf tournament.
Yeah, I like this shout out actually. I'm going to
Not
consider
Stenson,
adding him
Norlander.
to my card.
I said Henrik Stenson,
Yeah,
not
no,
Norlander. Stenson's on live, so that's not gonna work out.
getting the Swedes mixed up.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna consider adding him to my card, right? I love that he placed well in those lower field events earlier in the year at Mexico and Puerto Rico. Obviously, I think that this is gonna play a little different than those two, but if he could bring his game in those, tournaments, I can back him at 125-1 here. He made the cut last week, right? Like if you're hanging your hat on anything, he lost across the board, but he made the cut. So he finished like pretty much dead last outside of it, but I can't really fault the play here. It's a good chance, definitely a good bullet to throw out there.
Yeah, because
Um,
even if it doesn't end up being an accuracy play like I believe, I mean he still showed that he could have some good performances at the Puerto Rico, at Mexico that are definitely bomber paradise courses, where he is definitely not long off the tee in any sense. So I do like that as well.
yeah, definitely. So my next play here, sorry, I'm not prepared. I did not have him pulled up. Is Jacob Bridgman at 55-1. I feel like I've backed him at these crappy tournaments in the past. And it hasn't necessarily worked out the greatest. I mean, but also it hasn't been the worst, right? Like he's finished T25 in all these like crappy off-field events. He missed the cut last week, which I didn't love to see, but I think that if he made the cut last week, he would be awfully popular. He probably would be closer to that 35-40-1 number. Very well-rounded golfer, above average in all facets to the game except for driving accuracy. Sorry, there are horns behind me. This is just New York City. But anyway, just playing some solid golf this year, and I couldn't help myself but take a shot at 55-1.
No, I can't doubt you there. Bridgman's always a guy that I want to back. I never end up actually doing it. I think I have maybe once this season, but just one of those guys that just models well, kind of not like super high, but always like you see his name at the bottom of your page. If you were to like scroll once, you would just see Bridgman kind of down there, and you're like, what is that guy up to? And you take a gander that way. But no, in a field like this at that number, I do like to play. Can't fault you for that. And I just wanted. It's so wild how different our lives are. You're talking about the horns behind you and stuff, and if you hear background noise of me, it's sheep or a tractor backing up. So just like two different worlds going on here on the Out of the Rough podcast. But yeah, that's it for this week's slate of events on the PGA Tour
I actually, sorry,
schedule.
Nate. I added one more play
Okay.
while we were talking. I couldn't help myself. I didn't even realize he was in the field. Robert McIntyre, 60-1. We
Oh,
played him last week. Missed the cut on the number, but again, just a player I like taking my shot here this week. Long off the tee, pretty well-rounded golfer, and why not?
yeah, I mean, we look back, the guy almost took down Rory McIlroy at the Scottish Open not too long ago, less than 12 months ago. So if
Yeah.
there is anything to hang your head on, we can keep hanging our head on that event forever and backing old Robert McIntyre on the PGA Tour. But yeah, next week, PGA Tour Championship, second major of the season at Valhalla down there in Georgia. Yeah, breakfast ball coming your way, probably Friday, Saturday, somewhere around there. Then, of course, regular schedule. I know these have been coming out on Tuesdays the last few weeks. Life has been really busy. I know work for both of us has been, I want to say a pain because, of course, we have to do it, right? Um, I get paid to work. I don't get paid to do this. So I guess I have to put that first. But yeah, hope to have that back to you in a timely fashion next week. But yeah, that's all we have is the PGA Tour, and I think the DP still has 2 more weeks off before we return there. And yeah, I don't know where we head after PGA, but we'll worry about that next week. Jake, provide the social media.
Yep, you can find me at DJ Freeman on Twitter. I'll be posting my outright betting cards for both tournaments there since I won't have an article this week. So be sure to give me a follow. Be sure to join the Discord also. I'll post the link to that on my Twitter. And I know that Nate probably has it on his Twitter in his article somewhere. But 200 members, completely free to join. Great resource for both tournaments. So be sure to join that.
definitely throw it up there on my Twitter as well. Just get yourself, guys, an easier way to find that. Find myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKF Nate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. Until next time, guys, we'll see you.